Ball are talking about Lady Teresa looking all stressed out because her stepsister, who everyone thought was dead, is back. Guess the Squire House heir situation just solved itself, huh? Bet the Duke's gonna kick out the girl with the bad rep now. Teresa's heading our way. Yo, Teresa, you must be stoked your sister's back. I'm absolutely thrilled, yes. You about to say something messed up? 'Cause I'll tell Dad you're not happy about this. Whoa, wait, that's not what I meant at all. Have mercy. Teresa walks away, ignoring him. And that's when the super chat donations started rolling in. No doubt about it. Teresa's a Constellation tier player. She's the queen of viral moments and deep lore, villainous BJ. God's Game is the only reverse harem that actually hits you in the feels. Turns out, this girl who thought she was ordinary is actually a duke's daughter. The family, who'd been desperately searching for their lost girl, welcomes her back with open arms. The game's also packed with steamy events and hot guys like the Student Council VP, Damian West, who came from nothing. Then there's Ilya Bernstein, the genius professor from Valhalla, and Clyde Willow, the blue-eyed, white-haired heir from the rival family. Last but not least, the gorgeous Emperor, Eugis Rodrigo. But the happiness doesn't last, and now the heroine's stepsister wants her dead. Not putting up with it anymore, Duke Squire disowns Teresa even though she's his daughter. The game ends with a happily ever after, where the main characters are drowning in love from everyone. Shinji-woo pauses the intro, thinking the villainess died way too fast again. She's been developing God Game for months, and the quality's decent thanks to the effort, but there's no tension cause the villainess is a total pushover. The girl checks the character settings, figuring she probably made her too basic. Teresa's super jealous, gets brutal when things don't go her way, she's bossy, and got main character syndrome bad. They packed everything awful they could into this character. Shinji-woo wonders if she should add more scenes showing how much everyone hates Teresa. The villainess can't get the family's love. No way! Honestly, this whole story seems funny to her, even when she's talking about it. Like, does one person have to be hated so another can be loved? Really? Maybe the game developer thinks that way cause she grew up in a family where she wasn't loved herself. Shinji-woo was wiped out, having spiraled into some useless overthinking. Stretching, she decides to double-check everything one last time and call it a night on development. The game starts loading and the splash screen appears, the one the creator is already sick of. But this time, something feels off to her, cause as far as she remembers, Teresa wasn't on the splash screen before. Besides that, the number of male characters has gone up, and the thought suddenly makes her head spin. The game keeps loading, and there's Teresa lying in bed, surrounded by a bunch of people. Raoul Squire yells for his daughter to wake up, and the girl suddenly bolts upright in bed. A notification pops up saying loading is complete, and then the main character clearly hears the Duke's voice. She looks at the man, who seems familiar, and tries to figure out what the hell's going on. Turning to the mirror next to the bed, she's shocked to see Teresa staring back at her. She's trying to convince herself this is all a dream, cause if it's not, something seriously messed up just happened. A notification pops up in front of her, telling her she needs to name her channel and start streaming. The system suggests BJ Villainous as a possible channel name. The stream kicks off and constellations start joining the game. But in the God Game she created, there was no streaming functionality whatsoever. Still, everything here feels exactly like the universe she designed. The girl hears the Duke's furious voice behind her again. He's pissed not only because Teresa got drunk over a broken engagement, but also because she's now ignoring her father. Raoul is furious at the shame she's brought on them, seeing as his daughter treated the Count so badly he asked to break things off. On top of the Duke's voice, she suddenly hears another one telling her that none of this is a dream. So now that she's finally catching on, the channel admin is ready to talk. The guy introduces himself, says his name is Oswald. She's trying to figure out who he is, cause she didn't create any character like that. A system window pops up in front of Oswald, tasking him to watch the true ending of God's Game on hard mode. He tells her not to freak out, cause he's about to make her a killer offer. Flashes of her life are hitting her hard, showing her new dad's disappointment in her. She sees a woman refusing to celebrate her birthday, saying she's too busy dealing with the other kids. Oswald says the reward's massive, but so are the risks, and any streamer who fails goes straight to hell. But for Shinji-woo, hell would be reliving her childhood over and over. The girl's shaking like a leaf, 'cause even thinking about that outcome is terrifying. System window says if I win, the stream ends. If I lose, I die. Oswald just drops that bomb on her like it's no big deal. The girl's shaking like a leaf, totally freaking out, wondering how this got so real. The butler tells the Duke that Teresa will be fine. She just needs to rest. He figures all this happened because she's stressed about the engagement being called off. The Duke remembers how his daughter blew up when he told her what the Earl decided. Teresa was so pissed he didn't tell her. She started screaming about how much he hurt her with his hate. Later, Raoul thought he acted like a complete jerk since he broke off the engagement on a whim, even though the fiancé was begging him not to. The Duke tells the butler that Teresa's house arrest is officially over, and he wants his daughter's favorite sweets brought to her when she wakes up. Meanwhile, Oswald's offering the girl a one-time wish ticket. Costs a cool 1,000,000,000 points. She's turning it down, and the admin's trying everything to convince her, pointing out how awesome it is. The girl tells him to knock it off and send her back to her own normal world. A system window pops up saying that's possible too if she uses the wish ticket. Oswald's shocked she's refusing. He was positive she'd jump at the chance. The admin thought he was making a pretty damn good offer. All the characters in God's game were created by Shinju, so according to Oswald, it should be a cakewalk for her to get with one of them and beat the game. But the girl thinks he's dead wrong, and it's exactly the opposite. In God's game, the heroine is Libby, the girl everyone loves just for existing. Thing is, Teresa was designed to be the bad guy, a foil to make the main girl look good. No matter what she does, she can't change that, 'cause she's the one who wrote him that way. The whole world revolves around the main character. She hogs all the love. This whole universe, born from sleepless nights, ain't gonna crumble that easy. The admin notices the girl's stone-cold expression shift, just a little bit. He tells her not to sweat it too much, 'cause if she nails this broadcast, she can actually be part of this world. But if Shin-Ji-woo doesn't want that, she can grind out 1,000,000,000 points and buy a wish ticket. Then she can bounce back to her own world, and Oswald's hoping she can beat the game. Usually in these broadcasts, the constellations are thirsty for dark stuff: betrayal, revenge, disaster, war. But this time, they're going for a romance genre, with Shin-Ji-woo playing the lead. Oswald tells her not to forget that he genuinely hopes she succeeds, because the manager believes Miss Shin will become a major channel BJ. The moment he's gone, the heroine in Teresa's body finally snaps out of it. A maid comes up to her and says she changed her into something comfy, like loungewear. Plus, she got rid of all the booze Teresa drank. While the maid's talking, the heroine's not even looking at her, but at the system window that popped up again. The girl asks where her father is. After learning the Duke's in his study, Teresa gets out of bed and heads straight for him in her nightgown. As she gets to the door, the system window announces the Romance Path constellation just donated 100 points and wants to know when the main character's showing up. She's gotta beat this game on hard mode. In this mode, dying in the game doesn't just end the stream, it ends your life. The girl's got zero faith she can win anyone over playing as Teresa. To survive, she's got to pull out all the stops, which is why she's heading straight for the Duke. She barely gets through the door before blurting out that she needs to tell her father something important. The Duke's floored to see his daughter showing up in nothing but her nightgown. Raoul Squire is starting to think he's never going to catch a break, and Teresa's up to something again. But when she mentions seeing Libby, the Duke just freezes. After a long, hard look at Teresa, he asks her to repeat what she just said. She tells him she saw a woman who looks exactly like her stepmother did when she was young. The Duke's youngest daughter vanished when she was only 2, and now Teresa's claiming Livy is alive. A carriage pulled by 2 white horses rolls up to the estate. Livy peeks out the window like a scared little animal. Everyone from the estate is standing in the courtyard, waiting for the carriage. The Duke himself is standing in the middle with his wife, who can't hold back her tears. When Livy gets out of the carriage, the Duchess rushes to hug her daughter, who's been gone for years. While the whole family's trying to process what's happening, Teresa stands a little ways off. A few days ago, when our girl decided to tell the Duke about Livy, the constellation of romantic destiny strongly advised her against it. She understood why the viewers thought she'd be treated like crap after her sister came back, but she decided that whatever happens from here on out, it's not her problem anymore. so she asked the Duke to let her live in the Valhalla dorms in exchange for the info on Livy. We're talking about a magic academy, the main setting for God's game. It's not just a perfect excuse to ditch the Duke's mansion, but also to meet 3 potential love interests. This whole deal was totally something Teresa would pull, and Raoul totally got that she had no reason to lie in this situation. Teresa was after something, playing off her dad's grief. Still, he agreed and promised to get a dorm room prepped for her. But since official authorization needed to wait for the review, the Duke ordered his daughter to lay low until then. After Livy got back, Raoul threw a welcome home party for her, just like he promised. While everyone's gushing over the family reunion, Teresa steps out onto the balcony for some fresh air. She remembers the Duke and Duchess's touching reunion with their long-lost daughter, and one of the constellations laughs at her. Other constellations see that, and to defend and support the heroine, they donate 100 points each. Judging from the comments, the girl realizes the space she's in is real. Oswald's channel viewers are waiting for romantic interests to show up, but Teresa's got other ideas. She isn't saying it out loud, but contrary to the constellation's expectations, the heroine isn't looking to conquer anyone. Her goal is the hidden ending in God's game called Paradise, which was added for expert players. It's super hard because you have to erase all the bad endings for the main characters, but it's the only way to survive, and you can do it without hooking up with the male leads. The Duke raises his glass to get everyone's attention. He introduces his daughter to everyone. She's finally returned home. Livy's immediately surrounded. People are congratulating her and gushing about how beautiful she looks. And Teresa just watches the whole thing from the sidelines. Constellation Dirt Fanatic shells out 100 points and asks if she's jealous. "Our girl thinks his username's pretty damn telling," she replies, saying she's got no reason to be jealous. I mean, she created the character Livy, poured all her desires into her, and that role just ain't for her anyway. Suddenly, Teresa hears footsteps coming closer, and a kid's voice asks what she's mumbling about. The green-eyed kid strikes a battle pose, demanding she spill the beans on what she's plotting. It's the current Duchess's youngest son, Giuseppe Squire. This whiz kid caught the Magic Academy world's attention at a young age, all of 13. Looking at him, she can't figure out why he's picking a fight with her. Pointing a finger at Teresa, Giuseppe shouts that he heard her arguing with some dude. He's demanding she cut the act, cause he's sure she hates Livy. Leaning down to the kid, she tells him he should call her sister. But Giuseppe doesn't see her as his sister, and those words trigger a memory. Back in the real world, her stepbrother and stepsister insisted Shinji-woo would never be part of their family. Still, Giuseppe's a sweetie compared to them, and that thought makes her smile. The kid's clueless why Teresa's suddenly so amused and totally thrown when she says they're alike. He's yelling at her to stop calling him brother and saying stuff like that. Just as the constellations are cracking up at Giuseppe's reaction, Duchess Rosa steps onto the balcony. She asks her son why he's causing such a commotion in front of the guests. Spotting Teresa on the balcony, the woman orders the kid to get back to dinner. Rose apologizes to the girl for her brother bothering her and tries to excuse him, saying he's still a kid. Even though Teresa says her stepmother doesn't need to apologize to her, Rose admits she asked her son not to bother her, thinking the girl was upset. Smiling, Rose adds that Teresa must be a little uncomfortable because Levi's back. The truth is, Shin-jo put a lot of work into creating the Duchess character. On the surface, Rose seems gentle and kind, but in reality, she's always ready to sting and draw blood for her daughter if she senses a threat. The Duchess wants to hear an honest answer from Teresa about what she thinks of Levi. The heroine smiles back because she's not about to give up that easily. She tells her stepmother not to worry and says she's planning on leaving the duchy. Teresa tells the Duchess that she's won, since she never became the successor. Looks like she's applying to Valhalla dorms and probably won't be back home till graduation. As a heads up, she says the successor's room will be open soon. A couple days later, she's ordering the maids to hurry up and get that room in shape. She's pointing out where to move furniture and telling them to make it spotless. One of the maids shows up with the new rug the lady ordered. After making sure it's top-grade wool, she tells them to lay it down. Teresa's been decorating Livy's room since dawn and she's starving. Some constellation donates calculates 100 points and promises 500 more if she eats something. Even though her goal's the hidden ending, she decides to rack up points just in case, so she stops one of the maids. Barely remembering her name, Teresa asks Fenny to bring her something to snack on. But after she said that, the atmosphere in the room just got super weird. She figures the maids probably think Teresa's about to start messing with them again. Letting them know she'll wait for her food in the library, she dips out of the room. Now it's finally hitting her what it means to be stuck in the body of a villain. Locking herself in the library, she's gonna check out some stuff in the status window. She pulls up Teresa Squire's stats and sees she's 21, magic level B, intelligence C+, and magic power level A. Her hunch about the system having a status window is confirmed, and everything's exactly how she programmed it. She's so lost in thought, the constellations are starting to wonder what's going on in her head. Diving for the books scattered on the floor, she answers that she was thinking about Teresa's settings. The character's intelligence is kinda low, sure, but she's got magic power, which she's trying to fan from a tiny spark into a roaring flame. Teresa's a newbie mage, hiding her weaknesses behind a crazy amount of magical power. The constellations are loving this. BJ's naive reaction to seeing magic for the first time is priceless. She's shocked she can even use her powers without training, which means the only stat she needs to sweat is her intelligence. The constellations are hooked, watching her brain work, realizing God's game is all about special techniques. The magic formulas here work with a math-like logic, and the higher the spell level, the more complex the formula. Sure, Shinjiwoo threw this together quick, but in the grimoires, all these formulas are already built out, the logic perfected. She's betting she can get insane results if she puts in the work, and for that hustle, she scores another 100 points. Just having a ton of magic power doesn't automatically mean she knows how to use it well. To master high-level spells, she's got to hit the magic books and pump up that intelligence. But Teresa hated books more than anything, so despite her talent, she couldn't reach her full potential. The theorist constellation thinks she could even save the world at this rate, but she couldn't care less. Right now, she just needs to boost her intelligence to at least a B+. A maid walks into the library carrying a tray of food for her mistress. Teresa tells her to put it on the table, but suddenly, for some reason, the maid starts begging for forgiveness with tears in her eyes for being so slow. The heroine is taken aback by the girl's behavior. She hurries to reassure Fenny that it's no big deal and that she's doing great. Suddenly, the head maid Miranda walks into the library and asks her mistress if everything's okay. Not understanding why she's there, Teresa replies that she's fine. Miranda's suddenly confessing she's shocked the lady even remembered a simple maid's name. She promises to personally train this girl in everything, since she's made such an impression on Teresa. Our girl's kinda lost, not really sure what's going on. Then she suddenly remembers this conversation she overheard between two maids the other day. One was telling the other how lucky she was to be working with Lady Libby. Apparently, Lady Teresa's terrible with names, especially servants, and wouldn't recognize their faces even after seeing them for 10 years. But there are two servants whose names she remembered right away: the head maid, Miranda, and the butler, Donovan. The heroine realizes, yet again, what a total airhead Teresa is. Constellation Theorist drops 100 points, figuring she planned even this move, even though she totally didn't. Miranda also came to relay a message from the Duke to Teresa. He's asking his daughter to come down to the dining room today and have lunch with him. At first, she thinks it's weird, because Raoul usually doesn't give a crap about Teresa. But then she checks her status window to clear something up. Just like she figured, today is February 20th. Which means only one thing. It's Teresa's 22nd birthday, and the Duke probably remembered. When she gets down to the dining room, Raoul tells her to have a seat. Sitting down at the far end of the table, Teresa asks what's up. She's still hoping she managed to change the original story, even though it seems impossible. But she definitely doesn't hear what she wants to hear, because the Duke announces that today's a truly happy day, since the results finally came back on his paternity test with Libby. The heroine realizes, yet again, she was a fool to think her family remembered Teresa's birthday. Everyone in this family's happy except her, like Rosa, who still can't believe her long-lost daughter's back. There's Giuseppe, treating his stepsister with disdain, but still curious if Livia will get into Valhalla, and Raoul himself, who, forgetting Teresa's birthday, asks his youngest daughter what she wants as a graduation gift. A bunch of constellations are getting bored watching this scene. They're starting to bail, and the heroine knows the real fun's about to start. Turning to her father, Teresa asks him for a gift for her too, as she needs to buy something. The Duke suggests they talk about it later, since he doesn't want to ruin his mood on such a great day. But the heroine doesn't give up, asking when he'll have time to hear her out. Getting pissed, Raoul slams his hand on the table. He reminds Teresa that Livia just got back, and she's already begging for money and won't let up about something so stupid. The constellations are wondering why she's not reminding the Duke about her birthday, but our girl doesn't want to come right out with it. She's getting flashbacks to the past, to the time Shinju's birthday got cancelled because of her sister's competition. It's just another day that proves she's not important to that family, cursed with the role of the unloved older daughter. But this time, she's in Teresa's body, so she wipes her mouth with a napkin and coolly reminds him that it's her birthday. According to her, she didn't want to bother the family since they'd probably forget about it anyway. Feeling the Duke's heavy gaze on her, she starts to worry she might have jumped the gun. He, on the other hand, is hoping Teresa isn't about to pull another one of her melodramatic stunts. Saying she shouldn't have brought it up, she gets up from the table and asks for permission to leave. She figures his permission will be enough of a gift as is. She has no one to blame but herself, since she's the one who came up with this game. The Duke's probably pissed because Teresa was acting out of line. But then Raoul just drops the bomb, saying he ain't giving away no gift like that. If Teresa's tired, she can head on up to her room, no sweat. He'll write her a blank check, and if she needs anything, she can just use it. The heroine's stunned and tries to argue, saying he really doesn't have to. But Raoul reminds her that his daughter's the Duchess Squire, and a blank check ain't too big a gift for her. Even so, for a low-income game dev, a Squire check that could buy a whole mine is a freaking fortune. She'd understand if Raoul gave it to Libby, but for some reason, he's giving it to Teresa. The Duke's cool with her turning it down if she doesn't dig the gift. But the girl, as she's leaving the dining room, thanks him and says she'll gladly take the check. She knows Raoul's too chicken to act like a jerk to her with Livy around. So, she turns to her sister and congratulates her on being back. Today's a big day for Livy, and Teresa just had to wreck the whole vibe. That's why she's bouncing, telling everyone to have a good time. As soon as she's out the door, system notifications start blowing up her screen. Constellations are showering her with points, saying the stream's getting interesting even without the main guy. The system window dings, telling her she unlocked an achievement for racking up 10,000 points in record time. One after another, new constellations are tuning into the stream. She's getting sick of this life where she always has to chase validation. Thought she left all this behind. Out of nowhere, Oswald scoops her up and congratulates her on leveling up the channel. As she stared at the teacup frozen in midair, the admin's voice explained the 5-channel ranking tiers. You got bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and finally diamond. Each time your channel levels up, the max donation you can get jumps 10-fold. Since Oswald got her channel bumped to silver, she can now rake in up to 1,000 points at a time. But even if she hits diamond, she realizes the most she can get at once is 1,000,000 points. 1 billion for a wish ticket is gonna take forever to save up, so she's wondering if any streamers have actually done it. Oswald says every streamer he's picked has bought one, and she's definitely gonna make it happen too. The door bursts open, blinding light pours out, and the admin offers her his arm. He asks if she's into learning magic, since he's bringing knowledge from dimensions where that science is advanced. Oswald's positive that Miss Shinjiwoo is gonna love it. Giving him a hard stare, she tells the dude to let go of her hand. Thinking she's feeling weak or something, he somehow made it so she can't break free on her own. She's pissed that she can't even shake him off with magic. Who the hell is this Oswald guy anyway if she can't even fight him? Grinning, the guy says she'll get used to it soon, 'cause he's noticed she's been getting more active. She ain't denying it, seeing as she needs to rack up 1 billion points somehow. Oswald's stoked to hear that, but she cuts him off, wanting to know what he wants from her. She demands he explain why he picked her, going so far as to pause the game just to chat. But the guy claims he doesn't want anything from her. As channel admin, he's got to check up on the heroine's condition regularly. Getting closer to the girl, he adds that people usually eat that kind of thing up. He wonders if Miss Shinji-u wouldn't want to be friends with the channel admin. Beads of sweat pop out on her face as she realizes Oswald is playing in a completely different league. If this guy gets bored, someone like her will disappear in a heartbeat. For him, it's like deleting useless files with one click. Oswald turns away from the girl, figuring she doesn't want to play pretend friends, though he gets where she's coming from. Out of nowhere, she admits she's scared of him and doesn't know if she can trust him. Freezing for a second, the admin smiles again and praises her for being straight up. But she doesn't see the point in hiding it, since he can see right through her anyway. Stroking her face, Oswald declares that she still doesn't seem to grasp her situation. None of them are the kind of people who trust each other or rely on each other. Miss Shinji-woo is nothing but a plaything. So from now on, Oswald will call her Teresa to help her understand her place. Since the commercial break's gone on too long and the admin has to get back, he snaps his fingers. As the dishes shatter, Oswald tells our girl to not forget her role if she wants to be loved. As a final touch, he suddenly pulls her into a tight hug, vanishing. The admin lets the constellations get back to the broadcast. She turns around and sees the maids picking up the broken cups from the floor. They apologize to the lady for the mess and promise to clean it up quick. But she doesn't hear them. All she's thinking is that if there's a way to destroy him, she'll do it. Just then, the Duke walks into the hallway, followed by the butler. He sees his daughter collapsing to the floor, unconscious, and he rushes to Therese. He lays her on the bed and the Duke immediately calls for a doctor. The doctor says she fainted from dizziness, but he gave her some meds, so the lady should be feeling better soon. The Duke asks Donovan why the squire's daughter is holed up in these remote rooms when the estate's full of other empty ones. The butler apologizes and explains that the young lady herself chose these specific chambers. Raoul's stumped. How could vain Therese pick a deserted room at the end of some creepy hallway? It's only now dawning on him. Has he been too detached from his own daughter all this time? The Duke thought he never made mistakes, but today he looked into that kid's eyes and his heart kinda twisted. Raoul even wondered if this was some new trick to get under his skin, because Teresa always seemed hopeless to him. But right now, it feels different than before. After all, she's 22 years old now. The Duke's reminiscing about how radiant and smiley his daughter was as a kid. After snapping out of it, our girl realizes she's gotten a bunch of donations. And even though the constellations think BJ orchestrated everything and Raoul's now dancing to her tune, she has no clue what they're talking about. The notification windows disappear automatically, even if she doesn't check them, so these donations must have just shown up. 3 girls enter the room. The heroine assumes they're maids, and they ask how she's feeling. Teresa insists she's fine and asks them to help her get dressed. One of the girls starts brushing her hair when suddenly there's a knock at the door. Teresa's surprised by the unexpected visit, 'cause no one usually comes to see her at this hour. Servants walk into the room, carrying in new furniture for their mistress. The girl demands they explain why they're suddenly changing everything around here. The servant said the Duke thought the furniture in here wasn't good enough for his daughter, so he had it all replaced. It all seems super weird to her, but she decides not to fight Raoul's sudden generosity. The servant asks her to head down to the garden when she's ready, because the Duke has a gift for her. When Teresa gets outside, she sees this gorgeous green carriage sitting by the steps, all decked out in gold. She thinks there's gotta be some mistake. I mean, she already got a blank check with no limit. This carriage seems like overkill. Donovan says the Duke wanted to give his daughter this gift for her birthday, and he definitely doesn't think any of this is too much. While the constellations are throwing her donations, she's racking her brain trying to remember if she wrote a scene where Teresa gets her own carriage, because this exact carriage was supposed to be a birthday gift for Libby. The Duke, his wife, and son come over to her and ask how she's feeling. This whole thing's getting weirder. I mean, the Duke always forgets Teresa's birthday. Still, she pushes the doubts aside, bows to her dad, and thanks him for the gift, saying she totally loves it. She notices Giuseppe is really checking out the carriage. Makes sense, right? Boys his age are obsessed with anything that's got wheels. Teresa leans down to her brother and tells him to come closer, get a good look. She opens the door and Giuseppe, totally blown away, peeks inside. Teresa thinks the interior might seem basic next to other carriages, but that simple look takes crazy skill to pull off. It looks modest, but the price is insane because they used materials that can handle heat and moisture. Less junk weight means the wheels don't wear out as fast, which makes it safer. Suddenly, she cuts herself off, realizing she might have just screwed up. Giuseppe turns to her, asking how she knows all this stuff. The girl's caught off guard. She doesn't know how to answer because, honestly, she and the other developers poured their hearts into designing this carriage. And they really did it all for the beloved heroine, Libby, who's just stepping out into the courtyard behind the rest of her family. The girl tells her sister the carriage is simply gorgeous. Kinda weird, though, that she said that without even glancing at the carriage. Deciding it's time to bail, Teresa apologizes and says she's going back to her room. But then Livy suddenly stops her sister and asks her to hang on a second. She holds out a box to Teresa, tied with a red ribbon, and says she made a birthday gift for her. Our girl freezes, realizing what scene she's about to go through. In the original story, when Livy belatedly learns about Teresa's birthday and gives her the gift, she doesn't even look at it and throws it on the floor in anger. But if she lets herself do that now, it's a straight shot to disaster, so she reaches out and takes the box. When Teresa asks if she can open it right now, Livy nods, looking kinda flustered. Inside, she finds a braided cord bracelet, which her sister clearly made herself. It's all done so neatly, probably because her character stats include a talent for crafting. Teresa thinks the gift is super sweet and asks Livy if she can put it on right away. Tying the cord around her wrist, she thanks her sister for such a beautiful thing. The Duke breathes a sigh of relief, since he was worried they didn't know Teresa's size. Suddenly, Rosa announces that Levi's intentions are commendable, but clearly not enough for the eldest daughter of the Squire family. Teresa turns around, surprised, not understanding where her stepmother is going with this. The woman suddenly takes off a family heirloom from her wrist, one she brought with her when she got married. She said this aquamarine pendant might not be super trendy right now, but it's seriously high quality. With that, she hooks the pendant onto Livy's woven bracelet and wishes Teresa a happy birthday too. Our girl's totally lost, cause she has no clue what you're supposed to say in situations like this. It's the first time she's ever gotten a gift straight from the heart, and the Duke's voice snaps her out of it, reminding her to say thank you. That was a major screw-up on her part, cause Raoul Squire can't stand anyone disrespecting his wife. With her head down, Teresa admits she acted like a complete jerk. She thanks the family for the gifts, but all the stress is making it hard for her to breathe. So after thanking everyone again, she apologizes and bolts. The Duke tries to stop her, but she's already running through the garden, totally lost in her own head. One by one, the constellations are sending the girl 1,000-point donations. So the heroine gets it. Livia hasn't learned how to handle money yet and just did the best she could. Rosa stepped in to make sure that innocent gift didn't cause any trouble. The girl also realizes that growing up without love and care, she overvalues things that don't really matter and misses what's actually important. The next day, after getting Teresa ready, Fenny's blown away by how beautiful she looks. Even the constellations are impressed with how she looks, although she can't tell through her excitement since they see her face every day. The maid wonders why her mistress is so dressed up, since the school year doesn't start until tomorrow. Teresa explains that she needs to buy something at the auction today. She's talking about a dimension key. It's a necessary item to unlock the hidden ending in the game. If you use the dimension key to open a door in a specific place, there's a near impossible chance you can get to paradise. Fenny's worried, asking if her mistress is really ready to go there, since Count Fabio will most likely be at the auction. At first, she's got no clue who they're talking about. Then it clicks. It's Teresa's ex-fiancé. But she doesn't feel guilty about them breaking up, so she doesn't think anything bad's gonna happen when they meet. All right. So she's ready to head to the auction at the Centria Hotel. That's where the first dimension key's gonna show up. When she steps out into the hall, she sees Giuseppe standing there. Besides the fact that it's weird for him to be wandering around the estate at this hour, he also looks kinda pissed. Giuseppe just blurts out, asking Teresa why she's all dolled up for just a simple auction. She's thrown off by his comment, 'cause she thought she looked good in this outfit. Reaching out his hand, Giuseppe conjures up a magic fire in his palm. He gives her dress an incredible sparkle, so every move she makes shines like starlight in the night sky. Still with that serious look on his face, Giuseppe declares that Teresa looks way better now. The aristos are already swarming around the Centria Hotel, waiting for the auction tonight. When the heroine's decked-out carriage pulls up, everyone turns, thinking royalty just arrived. To everyone's surprise, it's Teresa, the eldest daughter of Duke Squire, stepping out. Seeing her, the ladies start whispering. They never thought she'd actually show. They're gawking at Teresa's shimmering dress, leaving a magical, fairy-like trail. One of the guys figures she's just doing it for the attention. Teresa overhears him saying he's not surprised her engagement got called off, being such a spendthrift. The heroine spins around and stares right into the rude dude's eyes. He's such a nobody she can't even remember his name. The constellations are sending her donations, saying her reputation will tank if she lets this slide. Okay, so Teresa's not gonna get violent, but she's not gonna just sit around either. She wants Eloise to find out which families these guys are from, and tell them this. If they cross her path again, she's striking their names from the aristocrat list. The girls head towards the banquet hall. Eloise is checking everything out, totally fascinated. She's only ever heard about places like this in rumors. Only the most powerful families can afford something like this. Even among the elite, there's a clear pecking order. Basically, aristocrats get VIP status just to get in here. The cool thing about this place is the service is so smooth, you barely notice it. Guests can totally chill. The girls take off to look around, promising to be back the second Teresa needs them. Just like she figured, her being here is grabbing everyone's attention. Everyone here's a big-shot aristocrat, but not many outrank her. This is a prime chance for every suck-up in the kingdom to kiss up to Duke Squire's daughter. As Teresa pushes back from the table, she accidentally bumps a dude with her elbow, and he starts to lose it. But then he sees who bumped him, and he just freezes mid-sentence. The guy drops to his knees, shaking, and begs her to forgive him, to have mercy. Totally confused, she looks him over, then spots the bald spot and it hits her. It's Fabio! Teresa tormented her ex-fiancé until he went bald, and she refused to break off the engagement until he was groveling at the Duke's feet. She tells Fabio to leave, not to embarrass them both, and the guy thanks her and books it out of there like lightning. Feeling everyone's eyes on her, she realizes they see her as a ticking time bomb, or some kind of plague. But honestly, she can't say that being alone is all that uncomfortable for her. Just then, a girl walks up to her, all smiles, and greets Teresa happily. But the main characters got no freaking clue who that is. Some of the constellations watching the stream are getting seriously bummed, considering she's the one who created these characters. Girls thinking she should remind them that games ain't made by one person, it takes a whole damn team. Even the devs don't remember all the one-off background characters the art department churns out. Oswald, the channel admin, bans some whiner who's already trying to get everyone to jump ship to another channel. Even though she's drawing a blank on who this guy is, she decides to ignore Teresa's antics and play it her way. Just as she's getting up to return the greeting, she hears a voice from behind. The lady in the green dress announces she's happy to see so many familiar faces and asks if she can join their chat. This character, though, she recognizes right away. It's Madame Shati, the Marquise's wife, daughter of an imperial family member, a high society lady with a serious rep. She's gonna be Livy's etiquette teacher later on. The main character knows she's gotta play it right with her, or things could go south fast. Madame Shati hasn't seen Lady Teresa in ages and is stoked to see her. A system window pops up, telling our girl about a new quest. Greet the woman with proper etiquette. The reward is a status boost in high society, but the penalty is a rep hit. Teresa's freaking out because she has to greet the most noble lady here first, Madame Shati. But the girl doesn't know the names or ranks of the other people around, so she asks the system for a hint. The system blares a notification about new merch dropping in the store. Our girl heads to the store and checks out the possible upgrades, including including a character scan for $5,000 and an etiquette crash course for $9,900. She's got 98,900 points in the bank ready to spend. She picks the scan, which lets her get info on anyone, anytime. So, our girl picks up some mid-tier etiquette skills, letting her act appropriately for any situation. Giving a little curtsy, Teresa apologizes for the late greeting. She admits she didn't expect to see Madame Chatty here, saying it's an honor to meet her. Madame Hamiel points out that Lady Teresa's become way more feminine since they last met. The heroine thanks her for saying so, addressing her by name now that her upgraded skills helped her figure out who she is. Madame Chatty mentions the atmosphere's definitely improved around here. She hopes they can keep trading pleasantries like this whenever they run into each other. Madame Chatty doesn't just hand out smiles, so Teresa must be doing something right. The Constellations are shocked she spent her points, so they donate more cause other streamers usually hoard them. Sitting across from Teresa, Madame Hamiel's surprised how much she's grown up, remembering her as a little kid. Even though she says she's flattered, Madame Chatty's like, big changes are probably coming for her this year. We're talking about becoming the social season's it girl, and that's bringing in a whole new crowd to the broadcast. Becoming the it girl is basically a requirement if you want to be empress. To do that, you gotta be the center of attention at the summer ball, which is in August. Then the emperor himself gives the most deserving girl the ceremonial crown. But Teresa thinks it's got nothing to do with her, since she's planning to focus on her studies. One of the ladies spots a bracelet on her wrist and says it's super cute, asking where she got it. For a second, she starts freaking out, thinking the wrong accessory made her a laughingstock, but she pulls herself together and says it's a handmade bracelet her little sister gave her for her birthday. While all the ladies are charmed by the answer, one of them decides to just straight up hint about the rumors she's heard. She's asking Teresa if it was weird suddenly finding a sister who disappeared years ago. Without missing a beat, our girl says anyone who meets this sweet girl's gonna fall for her instantly. Teresa looks up, wondering if she came off a little too sappy. But Madame Chatty says hearing her story reminded her of her own little sister who got married. Other ladies chime in, tripping over themselves to share their childhood memories. According to Madame Chatty, sisters are the best friends you can fight with for no reason every single day. But you always patch things up like nothing happened, and maybe Teresa's finally gonna get to experience that. She hopes the sisters will have a great relationship, and even though our girl's got her doubts, she still thanks Madame Chatty for the sentiment. Teresa's about to take her leave, but Madame Hamiel asks her to hang on a sec. She thanks the girl for the nice chat, saying it brought back some great memories. Even though she thinks she didn't do anything special, the Constellations are showering her with donations. After saying goodbye to the ladies, Teresa heads to the auction hall. Finally, they present the 15th lot to the crowd, donated by an anonymous sponsor, that very magic key. According to the host, they haven't figured out what this key unlocks exactly. The bidding starts at 300,000 gallons. One of the buyers raises the price to 400,000, and then Teresa bids 500. Even though the girl's bid gets topped, Lady Squire eventually wins the auction, dropping $1 million on the key. Back home, Teresa reads messages from the Constellations, who are bummed about such a pointless expense. Teresa offers to tell them what she bought the key for and why she chose such a secluded room. In the next instant, an incredible light illuminates the entire space. Right before the stunned Constellations, she finds herself in a room overflowing with jewels. This is Duke Squire I's slush fund, a hidden Easter egg only unlockable with the dimension key. Our girl pops open one of the chests, hoping to find an item from her inventory. Bingo! She finally finds what she's looking for, snatching up a brooch with a shimmering purple gem. Teresa decides to toss everything into her pocket dimension. Even though the Constellations are sweating that the brooch might be lost and the treasure vanish, she assures them that items bound to their owner can't be traded or stolen. While the audience is busy praising the game mechanics, our heroine's mind is somewhere else entirely. The truth is, this Easter egg that unlocks with the dimension key isn't the only one. If the first one is the treasure vault, then the second one is the hidden paradise ending. It'd be bad news if the Constellations or Oswald found out about the second one, but luckily everyone's convinced the key only unlocks the treasure room. Alright, that's the intro done. Starting tomorrow, the Real Gods game begins. The heroine's carriage pulls up to the steps of Valhalla Academy, and Teresa and Livy Squire step out. Livy's stoked that she and her sister get to study together. Truth is, she was kind of freaked out, cause she didn't even know she had magic powers until recently. In the game, Livy getting into the school was just part of the plot, but in real life, the heroine thinks it's a bit much. Teresa offers her sister to use her carriage to get to school, saying it's too nice to just sit around. And even though Livy's super happy about the offer, the heroine doesn't think much of it, since the carriage was originally meant for her anyway. Livy doesn't get why everyone's staring at them so hard. The heroine totally knows it's because of her infamous character, but tells her sister that checking out cute new girls is normal. Constellation. Path of Romance donates 1,000 points and wonders why the male lead still hasn't shown up on the stream. Teresa's about to tell Livy the entrance ceremony's in the auditorium, but a bunch of ear-splitting shrieks cut her off. A mob of girls are losing it over some Damian dude screaming their love for him. Since Livy's clueless who they're talking about, Teresa explains he's the student council president of Valhalla. Damian showing up now is perfect timing, cause Teresa needs to clarify something with him. But no point in approaching him directly, cause the first encounter scene's about to kick off, with him running into the hall to escape the fangirls. That's when he's supposed to bump into Livy, the main character from Game of the Gods. And since Damian gets a scholarship from the Squire Foundation, there's no way around him. But even though Teresa's ready to witness the big moment, for some reason the guy slams into her, not Livy. While he's all flustered, asking if Teresa's okay, she's wondering why he ran into her. The Constellations, though, are digging this plot twist and showering her with points. So the heroine uses her character scan ability and finds out Damian's 22, loves toys, cooking, sports games, and hates aristocrats. A heart meter pops up with 1 black heart, which means even Teresa has a shot at winning him over. The meter and the character's attitude change based on the affection level. Like 1 red heart means friendship, 2 red hearts mean you're best buds, 3 hearts mean dates and flirting, 4 hearts mean love, 5 hearts mean you've hit that happily ever after ending. Damian's black heart could mean a negative state, the start of a bad ending route. Here, the stages are reversed. First, unease, then suspicion, threat, hostility, and finally, the bad ending. It's basically a warning for the player. For Teresa, a black heart from the start is kinda expected, but still, that's harsh. The Constellations are glued to their seats, watching how BJ's gonna nail this male lead. Teresa's been playing the part of someone who looks down on Damian, treating him like a commoner, but she can't really keep acting like that, or his affection's gonna flatline. So, turning on the charm, our girl smiles at him and asks how his break was since it's been a minute. Damian notices Teresa's in a good mood today, and she tells him she's got her reasons. She's stoked to introduce him to her little sister Livy, who she found after all these years. The 2 young ones exchange some shy hellos. Looking at them, Teresa wonders if this move will even make a dent in Damian's affection. But if she keeps hustling, maybe she can dodge that death flag. Catching Damian giving her that WTF? Look, Teresa smiles and asks if he's heading to the hall to help with the newbie ceremony. The look on the dude's face is like he just spotted a glitch in the game. With that same friendly smile, Teresa asks Damian to escort her sister. The guy doesn't see a problem, but wants to know how she knew where he was heading and why. Of course, she can't tell him she's the game's developer, so she says everyone just knows. Teresa asks him to look after her little sister, but suddenly hears someone calling her name. Turning around, she sees Mimosa Bruni, who tells her to stay the hell away from Damian. Even in Valhalla, where everyone's all about equality, few dared to treat Teresa like she was beneath them. But Mimosa could get away with it, cause she wasn't just Duke Bruni's daughter, but a villainess, just like Teresa. Her mother's the Emperor's half-sister, which means the girl's got royal blood pumping through her veins. Mimosa's lavender eyes are living proof of that. She shoves her, saying she's lost her mind if she thinks she can flirt with Damian. This dude tries to step in and chill Mimosa out. But Teresa's all over it. She grabs the hand that shoved her, pins it to her chest, and asks the girl with a smile how her vacation was. Mimosa's totally thrown by this and tries to pull away. Meanwhile, Teresa introduces her to her little sister. Leaning in close, she whispers that if she ever thinks about messing with Livy, she can kiss her safety goodbye. Mimosa's pissed that she dared threaten her like that. Thing is, Teresa's only saying this for her own good. Livy's not just some girl, she's the main character, and anyone who messes with her is dead meat. A crowd of rubberneckers is already starting to gather, drawn in by another showdown between Mimosa and Teresa. Everyone knows that Lady Squire is the president of Clyde's Bride Club. In Valhalla, there are 2 fan clubs dedicated to the main characters, one of them being the Clyders. The other fan club is full of people obsessed with Damian. They're called the Demesas. Teresa is the Clyder president, and Mimosa is the Demesa president. They're heads of opposing factions and total enemies. Honestly, when Shinjo made all this up, she never thought it would blow up like this, and now she's kinda embarrassed. Seeing that her sister doesn't look so good, Libby starts to get worried. But the heroine tells her not to sweat it and to just follow Damian. This totally sets Mimosa off. She doesn't get why Teresa is pushing her younger sister on the guy. The heroine's starting to think this girl's completely lost her mind. While trying to figure out how to get out of this mess, Teresa suddenly notices a professor walking by. The girl rushes over to Mimosa and says she's super stoked about this chance because she wanted to talk to her and the professor anyway. Grabbing Miss Bruni by the arm, she drags her towards the guy even though she's fighting back. Finally catching up to Professor Ilya, Mimosa shuts her mouth. Giving the girls a hard look, the man demands they explain what's going on. Stepping forward, Teresa says she needs a professional consult, and Ilya invites her to his office. Mimosa bolts, saying she's got a meeting with her advisor. Following the professor, the main character scans his info in the character stat system. Ilya Bernstein is 30, loves silence, books, and research, and hates noise, ignorance, and relatives. The professor's affection level is completely empty. After Damian's black heart on the scale, this level feels angelic, but Ilya's relationship needs special care. The professor opens his office door and gestures for the girl to come in. All right, one of our constellations just dropped some points and wants to know why Ilya hates his family. In God's game, there are all sorts of races, like gods, angels, demons, and monsters. Used to be their worlds couldn't cross over, but something happened that shrunk the distance between dimensions big time. Ilya's tied to this event, and he's got another name, the great demon Ablo, whose end is tied to the destruction of the human world. The great angel Ilya was the strongest of those ruling the celestial realm, basically the top dog of heaven. But the angels killed his twin sister and banished him to the demon world. He fell and chose a new name, etched it into his soul, and that name was the great demon Ablo. His goal became wiping out heaven and the angels, but to do that he's got to destroy the human world first. It's a stepping stone. But for some reason, Teresa doesn't seem to have any regrets about this right now. Since she's been quiet for too long, the professor reminds her that he doesn't like wasting time. She hands him the textbook, saying there are parts she just doesn't get. And even though it was just an excuse to come by, it wasn't exactly a lie either. Leaning over Teresa, Ilya notices it's a second-year textbook in her hands. She points out the section of the book where things stopped making sense. Attribute magics based on the properties of water, fire, air, and earth. So if those 4 elements are used all the time, why not black and white magic? I mean, they say it disappeared back in the ancient magic kingdom, but theoretically, couldn't you still use them? Slamming the book shut, the professor tells Teresa, now a 4th year, that this is all covered in the 3rd-year syllabus. She's starting to wonder if she'll even graduate at this point. To see if she actually understands the previous stuff, the professor decides to quiz her. He's asking about how magic manifests, and Teresa's explaining how the runic language connects with the magic circuit to form a spell. When you pump mana into a completed spell, that's when it becomes magic. Honestly, manifesting magic is like programming a game, which is probably why she's so into it. After hearing Teresa's answers, the professor's about to hit her with one last question. He wants to know the real reason she came to him. Clearly, Ilya knew right away that professional consultation was just a cover story, so she admits she was in a tight spot, and the professor showing up gave her a chance to ditch. Ilya's surprised she picked a great demon's research lab as her escape route. Suddenly, Teresa notices the professor's affection level jumped to 1 red heart. He hands her some books and tells her to come see him if she has any questions after reading them. Ilya figures this is payback for her being so rude. She grabs the whole stack of books and stomps out of the professor's office. She's like, How does him making her read all these textbooks as punishment equal him liking her more? In the hallway, Teresa bumps into some girls from the Clydes, and they're stoked to see her again. A silver butterfly with sapphires is the Clydes' signature bling. The girls start tripping over each other, yapping about what they did on break. Then they drop that they already saw Teresa's little sister, who's a total knockout, though not as hot as Teresa herself, OBVs. She smiles and tells them to be cool with Libby. The Clydes, just like the main dude's fan club, are acting like villains, messing with Libby, but as long as Teresa's president, she can shut that down. Unless, of course, Mimosa becomes a problem. The heroine's racking her brain on how to ditch these fan clubs. The girls spot the books in her hands and they're totally floored. She's actually gonna read them tonight. Pink Hair is suspicious, thinks Teresa knows who's hanging out in the library right now. And since our girl's clueless, the friends spill that Mr. Clyde is the one in there. They're guessing she prepped those books on purpose to look like she's reading. Since the heroine needs to meet Clyde anyway, she asks which library he's at. And as Teresa heads over, the Constellations are stoked she's been checking off all the male leads since day one. Looking around, she notices Valhalla's library has way more books than the Duke's castle. The sound of Clyde Willow's footsteps echoes, and his entrance sends the viewers into a frenzy. The heroine scans his info in the system window and can't believe what she's seeing. Clyde's 22 got 0 preferences and hates love. And get this, his affection meter shows 2 freaking black hearts. The Constellations noticed all the male characters' birthdays are on January 31st, and Teresa says the game's turning point is going to be that day next year. When a guy's affection for Livy maxes out, he sends her an invite to his birthday bash. Depending on whose invite she accepts, the game ending changes. Clyde pushes his chair back, trying to get further away from the main character. Teresa knows the dude's got a reason for hitting the library so much. Valhalla Magic Academy is the Willow Dukedom, and Clyde's grandpa is the chairman of the school. His son, Lex Willow, died from insanity, and after that, Grandpa declared Clyde his heir. The younger nobles bit back, using Lex's insanity as their excuse. Now they're just waiting for the right moment to overthrow Clyde before he finishes his training at Valhalla and proves himself. All the guy needs is to survive this year, which is why he's holed up in the library where nobody goes. And even though the Constellations want Teresa to get closer, she knows it'll just make him hate her more. So they just keep sitting there for a while, each glued to their own book. The heroine's thinking about how she's gonna need to find the next volume. Out of all the specializations, elemental magic is the hardest, but it's got some cool stuff too. Her thoughts get interrupted when Clyde suddenly walks up to her. He finds it funny that she actually followed him to the library, 'cause he figured she'd never come back here. Teresa tries to argue with Clyde, claiming she's decided to focus on studying this year. He tells her to cut the crap because it's making him sick. Obviously, she's saying this stuff because of what Teresa did, but she's not giving up, just smiles and apologizes. Clyde thinks instead of apologizing, she should just drop out. The Constellations point out that expulsion or dropping out could also mean game over. She can't let that happen, so she decides to answer Clyde. She says from now on, she'll try not to bother him as much, even if it's tough. That just cracks Willow up so much he can't stop laughing for a while. Clyde can't believe this is coming from the girl who applied for the dorm right next to his room. He says he's never met a more dishonest, stupid, and selfish person, living only for their ambitions than Teresa Squire. The only thing Clyde can't figure out is why she likes a guy like him who keeps rejecting her. Okay, sure, the logical thing would be for Teresa to say she's over him, but that's just way too boring for her and the Constellations. But, the whole reason she kicks the bucket is because she's head over heels for Clyde. To survive this mess, she's gotta ditch this one-sided crush and tell him she's not into him anymore. The girl, looking a little flustered, tells Clyde that it's kinda hard to explain. Then, totally out of left field, she blurts out that loving him is just natural. Shinji-woo built this whole game from scratch, pouring her heart into the main characters especially, so how could she not love what she made? She tells Clyde that she loves him like he's her destiny. Teresa sees the wave of negative emotions her words just stirred up in him. And then, bam! Out of nowhere, she screams that she's done loving Clyde. Even she didn't realize how fast she jumped the gun. But she's digging this route, and she can't hide how stoked she is. Smiling, she adds that all this doesn't mean she's gonna hate him. She tells Clyde they should just keep living their lives, ignoring each other. After listening to her in silence, Willow just turns around and walks away. Leaving the library, he clutches his head, the voice inside freaking out, wondering how Teresa could do that to him. The voice says that when she confessed her love, he felt disgusted, like his very soul had changed. Noble feelings of love are sweet and enchanting, and if that kind of soul chased a dream, it'd go all the way to death. Not wanting to hear any more of this, Clyde tells the voice to shut up. Willow's a half-breed, half-human, half-demon. The voice in his head reminds him he's a demon born from a succubus, and humans won't accept the blood flowing in his veins. A teleport circle opens in front of Clyde, and he shoves his hand in. The dude pulls out this glowing artifact and clutches it tight in his fist. A voice chimes in, all sarcastic, asking Clyde if he's gonna run from himself again, but Clyde just tells him to shut his trap. Our girl walks up to the dorm, which is basically a standalone two-story house. The Clyders said it'd be a dump, but honestly, it's not that bad. On the desk, the girl finds a note from Eloise, who was thoughtful enough to grab her some sandwiches. Reaching her room, Teresa realizes just how beat she is after today. She decides to grab a bite, and then finish her book after she eats. Suddenly, she hears the familiar voice of the admin behind her, and she freezes up. Oswald snatches the package from the girl's hands to check what's inside. Saying she needs to eat properly, the guy throws the sandwich on the floor. The admin kisses her hand, and suddenly she's in an evening gown. Next thing you know, Teresa's sitting across from Oswald at a table overflowing with food. She figures, with a hint of sarcasm, the Constellations probably aren't thrilled with dinner dates. The guy just smiles and says, "No way," then snaps his fingers. One after another, Teresa hears a bunch of system notifications popping up. Judging by the messages, the Constellations are loving it whenever Oswald shows up in the game. It all reminds her of Clyde and Damian's fans, right down to the hero's total indifference. Oswald says the whale-level donations she's seeing have already been censored. He's surprised she didn't think the sheer amount of points was kinda weird compared to the actual donations. As he says this, the admin seats Teresa at the table and slides a plate of food towards her, so the girl finally gets why the total always seemed way higher than it should be. Turns out, it wasn't just the donations rolling in while she was out cold or asleep. Not that Oswald likes stooping this low, but doing interviews during meals doesn't seem like the worst idea. Before jumping into a stream, Constellations read the broadcast description, sometimes even with a cheat sheet. The host needs to drop the right info at the right time, but spilling everything at once kills the suspense. With that in mind, Oswald asks Teresa to lay out the situation as it stands. After a second, she starts talking about Professor Ilya, the fallen angel pretending to be human. This big-shot demon's plotting to turn the human world into Hell 2.0. The human world's like a transfer station between the God realm, heaven, and hell. And if it becomes hell, that means hell's gonna break loose in all the worlds. Oswald figures a demon like that could wipe out the whole world in a heartbeat. Actually, Shinju's team thought about that too, so they put limits in place for easier gameplay. She's saying a human can't live underwater, a fish can't live on land, and the same goes for Professor Ilya. Because of the limiters, he's using that human body like an oxygen tank. Other lesser demons make deals with humans to enforce those restrictions. While she's explaining, Teresa notices Oswald's somehow back in his seat, listening intently. He wants to know if reverse harem game settings are always this freaking extreme. The heroine feels her face burning up under his intense gaze. She tells him God Game's a role-playing game, so stuff like this is pretty standard. With that settled, the administrator suggests they move on to the main question. So, Teresa met the three main male leads today, and everyone's dying to know which one's closest to her ideal type, who she liked best. The heroine says that none of them are her type. Not even close. Seeing Oswald's reaction, she figures that was probably a little too cold for a romance stream. So, Teresa decides to salvage things and adds that her ideal type is actually one of the side characters who hasn't shown up yet. She's talking about Professor Felix Lockhart, whose lab is like a freakin' botanical garden. And of course, the Emperor hasn't even made an appearance yet. But Teresa points out that all three of the main male leads she saw today are totally awesome. It's all kinda weird to get used to since her team created all these characters, but she does like them all. Truth is, she ain't even talking about her feelings for the virtual content, you know? Deep down, she's talking about the reality of what happened to her. This guy's a seriously ruthless god, making him way more dangerous than anyone she's faced so far. She has no clue what he might do to her right now or even what he's already doing. Either way, anything she says to Oswald is just gonna sound like a cheesy line. So, with that in mind, she decides to hit the administrator with a question of her own. She remembers him saying this is his first romance stream and wants to know what he thinks. Oswald's thinking it over, but Teresa isn't expecting a positive answer either way. Suddenly appearing right next to her again, he says there hasn't been any romance in the game yet. He takes a lock of her hair in his hand and admits that he thought it would be boring, but it's turned out pretty fresh and engaging, even if there's not enough romance for now. Oswald gets a real kick and sense of freshness from the heroine herself, so much so that he might even become a fan. The girl figures the admin's just acting all sweet for the stream's sake, 'cause constellations are watching them. Out of nowhere, Oswald declares that whoever's watching this ain't human, and you need a major boost to attract viewers like that. A system window pops up, telling the heroine about a new quest where she has to join the student council. The reward's 100,000 points, but if she refuses, she's gotta go to school, which makes zero sense. According to Oswald, no matter how much the BJ struggles in this weird world, there's nothing exciting or fun about it. So, Teresa, you gotta do whatever it takes to get people to love you. Whipping around to face him, the girl asks if he even knows anything about love. Oswald claims he does, and that it's the very thing Teresa wants most. That's why he's happy to set the stage for her. Unlike my miserable, unrequited love life before, now I demand reciprocation, you hear? So Teresa can be loved as much as she freaking wants. She realizes this bastard sees the affection she craved from her family as the same as constellation donations. She feels like a joke for even asking a guy like him about love. The manager checks his watch and announces that, unfortunately, the interview has to end there. Oswald leans in towards her, but she sharply turns her face away. The guy asks if cheek kisses on greeting and goodbye aren't a thing in her culture. Without raising her head, she stays put, silently turned away from him. Oswald grabs her chin and tells her not to even think about dodging his manners. He's not about to adjust his habits or anything like that for her. Tears well up in the girl's eyes, and she starts to tremble as the guy's lips brush against her cheek. He wishes the main girl good luck, and a second later, she's back in her room, all alone, with that sandwich still dumped on the floor. Eloise is surprised how willingly Teresa puts on the school uniform, considering she changed outfits at least twice a day back at the Duke's estate. The main girl replies with a smile, saying she actually likes it. The girl offers her the Clyde's Brides Club brooch, but Teresa tells her to put it away because she's not planning on wearing that symbol anymore. Besides Clyde, Damian's also on the student council, and to finish the quest, the main girl needs to win over both of them. Leaving the room, the girl keeps reading the textbooks Ilya gave her, hoping the professor won't kill her for just skimming. So caught up in her reading, she doesn't see the person walking toward her and slams right into them. Teresa looks up and sees Damian standing in front of her. She apologizes to the guy for not paying attention, but he doesn't blame her, figuring he should have been more careful himself. Damian's a mage and a member of the Assassin's Guild, but the killing thing is just a side hustle for him. When they made him, the creators figured this double life would be part of his appeal. But now that the heroine's been transported here, it's more like a fast track to getting her killed. While she's all smiles, asking if Damian got hurt, he suddenly notices her forehead's all red. He reaches out, worried, to check the bump on Teresa's face. His move reminds her of last night when Oswald grabbed her chin, so Teresa pulls away from Damian real quick. Realizing her reflex just weirded him out, she tells him it's nothing to worry about. She suggests they head to the main building together, if that's where he was going anyway. On the way, Damian asks if Teresa's a coffee person. Once they reached the main building, he showed the girl his lab, which she thought looked neat and inviting. Damian started brewing coffee and thanked Teresa for the flattering comment about his space. Looking around the lab, one of the constellations figured it was made for secret work, since the carefully arranged test tubes felt unnatural. The girl thought about Damian's hypocrisy, how he was trying to appear good when he's a killer. She decided to check the favorability rating and opened the system window. What Teresa saw surprised her, because just yesterday Damian's favorability was 1 black heart, and now there were 2. Smiling, the guy asked if this was her first time in the lab. The girl dodged the question, saying she didn't remember small details like that, when really, Teresa could have broken in herself without an invite. Damian wondered if the girl came to the auditorium with her sister yesterday to congratulate her on getting in. The guy knew perfectly well that Teresa wasn't the type to celebrate other people's accomplishments, so, obviously, he asked that question to see what she thought of Libby. That's why the main character answers that even if she didn't congratulate her, it doesn't diminish her sister's talent. According to Damian, Libby still seemed a little upset. Teresa replies that, in her opinion, focusing on her own future seems more important than congratulating her sister. Valhalla Academy has a harsh education system that includes expulsion for bad grades or failing to defeat a monster, and Damian should know that Teresa's grades in core subjects leave a lot to be desired. The main character creates a magic circle around her cup, from which ice cubes fall into the coffee. Damian is surprised that she drinks her coffee cold, but she claims it tastes much better that way. In response to his suggestion that it's fashionable in high society, Teresa says it's just her personal preference. Damian thinks that if you drink coffee cold in public, you probably won't hear anything good from people. She can hear the sarcasm dripping from his voice. I mean, even though he's a commoner, the dude's social game is top tier. Teresa's only response is to silently drop more ice into her drink, which is apparently hype-worthy for the constellations watching them. While Damian's staring, all confused as she enjoys her drink, the constellations are throwing support points her way. At first, she was thrown by the shift in the affection meter, but figures 2 black hearts doesn't necessarily mean a death flag. Right now, all she wants is to book it out of here, because there's a high chance Mimosa's about to bust in any second now. If she catches Teresa alone with Damian having coffee, the difficulty's gonna spike. Thanking the guy for the drink, she makes to leave, saying she needs to cram some reading before her lecture. Damian suggests they walk together since he's got class soon too. They barely get out of the lab when Mimosa's voice booms from inside. The heck? Why am I here already? It's not even my cue yet. Teresa's freaking out, trying to figure out where to hide, and spots a door. Grabbing Damian's jacket sleeve, she whispers, "No time to explain, we gotta hide." Mimosa walks into the lab and finds it empty, which throws her for a loop because she thought she heard voices. Meanwhile, Teresa's crammed in a closet with Damian and realizes she could have just hidden alone. She totally panicked and dragged him in here without even thinking. Just then, Mimosa notices 2 cups of coffee sitting on the table. Teresa's sweating bullets. If she gets caught now, it could start a war between the fan clubs. Pulling her close, Damian whispers in her ear, "If you keep squirming, we're gonna get busted." She looks up at him and sees he's smiling, staring right into her eyes. Teresa's just glad she's the only one hearing the donation alerts, 'cause the money's starting to pour in again. Meanwhile, Mimosa's checking out the cups when she spots lipstick on one and realizes with horror that Damian was here with a girl. The second she gets out of here, she's wiping off all her makeup. Mimosa, absolutely furious, vows to kick out the cheeky girl who dared to trick Damian. She slams the door open and finally storms out of the lab. When Teresa finally crawls out of the closet, she feels like she aged 10 years in there. Seeing that she's a little unsteady, Damian catches her before she can fall. He tells Teresa she should pick better hiding spots next time, because she's way too easy to find. Coming from a professional assassin, that's pretty solid advice. Smiling, she asks him for hiding spot recommendations, promising to follow them next time. After a pause, Damian asks if that means she'll be back here again. Before she can answer, he throws another question at her, needing to know if she hates him now. The way he phrases that cracks her up, since he's the one acting like he hates her. When she tells him she doesn't hate him, Damian asks her, well, how does she feel about him then? According to her, she thinks of him as a friend. The guy wants to know, if she considers him a friend, then why did Teresa hide like they were caught cheating, especially with Mimosa around? She figures she did that because Mimosa could have gotten the wrong idea, and that would have blown things way out of proportion. Damian wonders if that means they'll have to keep meeting in secret from now on. He reaches out towards Teresa's face, and she starts thinking this doesn't feel much like friendship. Damian, remembering she asked him to show her a good hiding spot, adds that he's glad things are finally working out between them. Stroking Teresa's face, the guy tells her he likes her and always wanted to be her friend. She looks away, letting Damian know his touch wasn't exactly friendly. The guy smiles, explaining she just had a little lipstick on her lips and she wouldn't want Mimosa to see it. Teresa says she doesn't touch her friends like that, only lovers do. That surprises Damian because other girls would kill for that. Gathering her books, Teresa explains that's because they're into him as a man, but for her, it's just too much. Period. And even though the constellations think she's too uptight, she thinks Damian's acting weird. The guy apologizes and promises to be more careful with her from now on. Teresa tells him not to overdo it, so others don't get the wrong idea, and says goodbye. Left alone, Damian takes off his glasses and tries to figure out why he just can't crack this girl. This is bugging him, because her personality was dangerous, but there's something else here. Teresa was dumb, but not completely dumb, and actually, Damian even considered letting her get caught. But then Teresa started acting weird, grabbing his collar, and it was just awkward. Damian's pulled out of his thoughts by a pigeon tapping at the window with a message from the guild. The note says he needs to check Libby Squire's magic power stats and report anything else that needs looking into. Damian remembers hearing that Libby lived in the slums. She's the polar opposite of a real noble like Teresa, who he figured would be all stuck up. But that day, the girl acted completely different towards her sister. Damian starts writing a reply saying that surveillance on the Squire house needs to be stepped up. Basically, the check showed the younger daughter has traits of white magic. Damian's thinking, because the guild, knowing the white mages were gone, was already ready to drop the surveillance. The guy suddenly wonders if Teresa might have been using her as bait, but he quickly dismisses that thought because that girl's too dumb for that, in his opinion. Still, lately he's been noticing something kinda weird about her expression. Besides, Teresa's once sharp attitude has suddenly become a lot softer. Releasing the carrier pigeon, Damian figures he can watch the changed Teresa on his own for now. The guy's affection meter suddenly shifts, and one red heart pops up in the system window. She's stressing 'cause Professor Ilya's lecture starts after lunch, and she hasn't finished all the reading yet. Suddenly, her attention's grabbed by the bulletin board and one of the notices posted by the Clyders. The clubs are announcing recruitment drives, 'cause the cutthroat rivalry between them starts with getting new members. But right now, Teresa's interested in the guide on how to apply for student council membership. She's studying the info sheet closely, so she can fill out the application and join too. The student council, led by the straight-A president and VP, is like a magical knight order. They gotta regularly take down demonic beasts, and their first pick when monsters show up. Yeah, the odds of dying are higher than for other students, but the elite give them constant backup. Being on the student council is like a stepping stone to getting somewhere big. Even after graduation, they get Duke Willow's backing and invitations to the Imperial Court, plus a medal. But all that's useless to our girl, 'cause Duke Willow's an enemy of Duke Squire. Teresa didn't want to raise a death flag, but fighting monsters was better than going to school. Suddenly, Ilya pops up next to her, asking if she's thinking about joining the student council. She jumps, startled. She hasn't even finished the textbook, and she's already run into a professor. So, as Teresa stammers out a greeting, the guy suddenly thinks it'd be cool to read this book after a couple of others. The professor's totally thrown when he finds out she's already crushed the other books. But she's surprised by his reaction, 'cause she figured she had to nail all the textbooks before the lecture even started. She admits the last book was kinda a brain bender, and she was hoping to finish it up over lunch. Now Teresa doubts she'll have time, so she apologizes to the professor. Then Ilya says he didn't mean she needed to cram everything before the lecture. Giving her a good look, he asks if she even got any sleep last night. Figuring she probably looks beat, Teresa admits she did sleep, but not nearly enough. After a second, the professor swings open his office door and invites her inside. Not sure why he called her in, the girl just sits down on the couch. Wait, she just caught Ilya smirking. No way, this dude never smiles. Teresa's all hesitant like, why am I even in your office? As he heads out the door, the prof says he'll be back before class, and she's gotta stay put till then. She's totally thrown that he just left her alone in his freaking office. The constellations are saying the genius prof's probably crushing, but Teresa thinks he'd have to be nuts. The constellations want to know, what does BJ think about all this? But she's got zero clue, 'cause you only get into Ilya's office if he's already into you. She can't even imagine why he'd suddenly start being nice to her. One of the viewers figures it's 'cause she's been killing it on her assignments. She's not ruling it out, since Ilya's a professor, and good grades could be a way to win him over. Figuring she might as well try to get on the great demon's good side, she decides to finish the book for now. When Clyde Willow walks into Professor Ilya's office, he finds Teresa Squire asleep on the couch. He's there because the professor asked him to drop off an application for student council. Clyde wonders if it was meant for Teresa, but immediately dismisses the thought. That girl is the greediest, most selfish person alive. The student council has to participate in beast extermination and demon hunts. Teresa wouldn't do anything that puts her in danger. Sacrificing herself has never been her thing. Clyde notices the book she was reading is a textbook for third-year students. She should have finished that class last year, and now she's probably only studying because of graduation. It all seems absurd to Clyde. Yesterday she was spouting nonsense, and now she's sleeping soundly in the professor's office. This dumb mortal's admiring his looks, and she doesn't even realize what he really is. If Teresa had royal blood like Mimosa, she'd feel the danger from him on a gut level. Clyde wonders if she'd still say she loves him, like he's her destiny or something. He doesn't think this girl, who's worse than the devil himself, is capable of loving anyone. The guy finds it both hilarious and disgusting, and walks out of the room. When she wakes up, the main girl sees Ilya sitting in the armchair across from her. She's embarrassed she just crashed out in the professor's office like that, but the dude doesn't even acknowledge it, and just slides an application form over to Teresa. If she really wants to join the student council, Ilya tells her to fill it out and give it to him. She thanks him, and he gets up and tells her to follow him to the lecture hall. Ilya's moving so fast, the girl's barely keeping up. They finally get to the lecture hall, not too crowded since elemental magic is a niche elective. Mages are split into combat and non-combat, and combat mages are the hero types, so that's the popular route. But non-combat, especially something as complicated as Ilya's subject, is seriously underground. Even if it's a tough course, there are definite perks. Someone with high-level elemental magic can't control other types, but they can pull off insane spells in their area. Ilya and Clyde, who's just walking in, are living proof of that. Hearing his voice, the girl tenses up, remembering Teresa picked this class just to be with him. Walking into the hall, Clyde suddenly heads straight for our girl and sits right next to her. Teresa's confused. Why is he doing this? They agreed to ignore each other. The girl figures this has gotta be because his affection meter's going up. But when she checks it, she sees it's spiked all the way up to 3 black hearts. Now, that ain't instant death, but it's definitely deep in the danger zone. The heroine's freaking out that at this rate, she'll never get into the student council. As long as Clyde's got those black hearts, he's a danger, a threat to the whole duchy. Teresa notices his fan club ogling him adoringly from behind the door. Maybe that's why the number of black hearts went up. The heroine suddenly thinks about disbanding the fan club, but then she'd have to get rid of Demi's too, because if she only shuts down one club, Clyde and Damian's black hearts are guaranteed to get even worse, and that'll kick off a chain reaction leading to a bad ending, plus a huge spike in the chances of a demon popping up. This is so complicated, Teresa figures she should just listen to the lecture, for now. The professor starts his class, and she catches a glimpse of a smile on his face when he looks at her. Maybe she's just imagining things, but the thought that someone might care about her, it warms her heart. By the end of the lecture, Teresa is totally drained. That lesson felt more like torture. Ilya is brutal in his lectures. He doesn't even realize people can't keep up with him. Teresa and Clyde get up from their seats and start gathering their books and notebooks. She decides to try and avoid Willow until she figures out how to raise his favorability level. She hopes he'll just ignore her until then, like she's invisible. But at the door, Teresa gets stopped by those fan club girls who assume she had a tough time with the hard lecture. And while she's trying to brush them off, Lady Lumio wants to know why Miss Squire didn't leave with Clyde today. Lumio, the demon-possessed chick, she's just a minor villain Shin Ji-woo's team threw together. She doesn't mess with the game much, but for Teresa, she's a ticking time bomb right now. This is a character who summons a demon by fulfilling one seriously simple condition. Lumio, all embarrassed, says she just wanted to see Miss Squire and Mr. Willow together. The deal she made with the demon is to make sure Teresa and Clyde stay linked. If he's just cold to her or gets close to another girl, bam, the demon shows up in this world. All this is throwing the heroine for a loop, and to dodge the conversation, she says she needs to talk to the professor. Right then, Clyde, walking out of the lecture hall, just tells Teresa to get out of his way. Real rough. Seeing him, the girls can't take their eyes off him and are crowding him, not letting him pass. Even though she's the president of this club, even she's cringing at all this, and she can only imagine what Clyde's going through. Teresa bolts, saying she has to hand in an assignment to the professor ASAP. As she walks down the hall, the constellations are arguing about which guy is the best match for her, and one of them even says his heart flutters at the thought of Oswald and the heroine as a couple. That idea strikes her as so insane, she decides not to even dignify it with a response. While the constellations are wondering where Teresa's headed, she walks into the bibliotheca on the first floor. And even though she says out loud that it's the best place to hide from students, the heroine actually knows Clyde never comes here. She totally wasn't expecting to see Mimosa here, yelling at her sister for some reason. She's demanding Libby confess that she snuck over to Clyde's this morning, but Libby's already repeated for the 4th time that it wasn't her. Mimosa accuses her of lying because she saw a smudge of pink lipstick on a cup. According to her, it's a limited edition that just dropped, and Libby's wearing that exact color right now. Libby tries to defend herself, arguing that a limited edition doesn't mean there's only one of them. Mimosa's still tripping about it, cause they only made 10 of those lipsticks. Listening to all this, Teresa's thinking she should just toss all her makeup when she gets back to her room. Of all days, Libby's wearing the same makeup as her today, so feeling guilty, she decides to stick up for her sister. Stepping closer and crossing her arms, she announces that she's got some of that limited edition stuff too. Livy's super stoked that her sister came to the rescue, but Mimosa jumps to some weird conclusion, assuming Teresa made Livy cozy up to Damian on purpose. Truth is, the real Teresa ain't that smart, and reacting to this kind of ridiculous meltdown's just gonna make things worse. So, to dodge this whole conversation, she suggests Livy they get out of here. A system window pops up out of nowhere, announcing a new quest. Teresa's gotta get Mimosa to apologize. Rewards unknown, punishments getting kicked out of school, and she's starting to think these quests are made up out of anything. Thing is, she really doesn't want to waste her time arguing with Mimosa. But since she's got no choice, she calls the girl a pro at making bogus accusations. Nosy students are starting to gather around, eager to watch another catfight go down. Teresa knows she's got to wrap this up quick before the Clyders show up. She demands Mimosa prove that Livy was the one in Damian's office today. This girl ain't backing down and she's ready to bet it all, so Teresa offers her a wager. If Livy didn't visit Damian's office today, Mimosa's gonna write an apology and post it on the bulletin board. But if she's not sure she's right, then Teresa wants her to apologize to her sister right now. Mimosa agrees, and the constellation donations start raining down on our girl again. Realizing she's trapped her, Teresa declares that she was the one in the lab today. Mimosa's on her case, saying she needs to cut the crap cause she's got no reason to be hanging around Damian's office. Our girl asks when she found the cups, and the chick says it was around 9:30. Then Teresa asks Livy what time she got to school, and she says it was 10 on the dot. Our hero points out they can always check the logbook to see what time the carriage rolled up. Striding right up to Mimosa, she offers to go check the records together. Gritting her teeth, the girl admits she messed up and apologizes to Libby for jumping the gun. On top of that, she promises to write an official apology today and slap it on the bulletin board. Quest complete. The reward? Fewer Demi's Club members and more for the Clyde fan club. Mimosa wants to know why Teresa was drinking tea in Damian's office. Our girl replies that West managed to pull it off and became the student council vice president. As a board member of the Squire Scholarship Foundation, she's got every right to request private meetings. But Mimosa still doesn't get why someone like Teresa, who's dying to ditch Damian, would want a one-on-one. The heroine knows the words she's about to say will kick off a whole new chapter. She smiles and announces that she's appointing Damian West as her escort mage. This event from the original Game of Gods can trigger when Damian's affection level hits 2 red hearts. The guy showed promise as a top scholar since he was a kid, and if Teresa hadn't interfered, he'd have been a Squire family knight ages ago. And even with royal blood, nobody can mess with another house's choice of a scholar as an escort. Late at night, a knock echoes at Teresa's door, and she wonders who it could be at this hour. Opening the door and finding Damian on the doorstep, the heroine reminds him that guys aren't allowed in the girls' dorm. The guy points out that the main thing is not getting caught, and hearing that, Teresa figures that's no big deal for a pro-assassin. Damian heard about today's talk with Mimosa and wants to know if it's true Squire's trying to make him an escort. She confirms it, and even though the offer might be a little late, she says they can sign a contract if he agrees. For Damian, a commoner, becoming a vassal of a noble family guarantees him a quasi-noble status and perks that come with it. He stares at her silently for a beat, really thinking about her offer. Then, grinning, the guy agrees, and Teresa promises to let her family know. Out of nowhere, Damian drops to one knee in front of her and kisses her hand. Since there hasn't been any official announcement yet, the girl feels like it's a bit much. But West doesn't see anything weird about it, because he thinks he's doing everything right. The girl just can't figure out why a hired killer is smiling so genuinely and brightly. Getting up from his knee, Damian wishes Teresa goodnight and takes off. Watching him go, she wondered if the warmth in his smile was just her imagination. The constellations were telling her to check his affection level, said something might have changed. Checking the status window, Teresa was surprised to see the affection meter showing 1 red heart. These changes felt way too fast and drastic, considering it was a black heart just a little while ago. Maybe it's because this isn't a game anymore, and Damian's a real person living in this world. And even though affection is needed to progress, she doesn't want to get attached to the characters, since she's planning to escape to paradise after the hidden ending. The next day, Teresa hands the professor the textbooks, and he asks if she had any questions while reading. But she tells him that she worked through all the confusing parts by finding other books in the library. Ilya stands up, silently walks over to the bookshelf, grabs one of the books, and hands it to her. Teresa takes the textbook, secretly hoping the professor won't bring her a new one every time. Look, she's cool with reading, but if she has to keep trekking out here and spend this much time, it's gonna be rough. Before she leaves, the professor smiles and tells her not to pull another all-nighter this time. Teresa's kinda surprised he remembers her staying up all night last time. Even though Ilya's got a poker face and his tone isn't exactly warm, he somehow comes off as caring. The thought makes her smile without even realizing it. Ilya notices and asks what's making her smile, and she instantly clams up. A little flustered, she admits she was happy he was showing he cared. But Ilya looks at her like he's about to call her out, which just makes her feel even more awkward. After a moment, the professor says he's already put in an application for her to join the student council. And even though Teresa was sure this quest would be wrapped up soon too, days go by and still no word. The acceptance letter should have been here already. The delay probably means someone's blocking her entry. So she decides to head to the student council and sort this whole mess out in person. Stepping into the office, she thinks it's empty at first. But then BAM. There's Clyde being all sarcastic, saying it looks like anyone can just waltz in here now. He asks Teresa why they keep bumping into each other, considering they agreed to pretend they don't know each other. The way the character she created is talking really grates on her nerves, but she doesn't let it show and just says she's there about her student council application from last week. Grabbing a paper off the desk, Clyde asks if this is the application she's talking about. Saying Teresa's timing is perfect because her issue was just decided, he sets the form on fire. By the power vested in him as president of the student council, Clyde tells her she's been rejected. But the heroine uses her magic and summons the leaf that holds her name. Before Willow can react, the application stops burning and repairs itself. He can't believe Teresa managed to break through his demonic magic. The heroine can't hide her joy that she actually pulled it off. She shows the shocked Clyde the restored form that made it through his magic. Gritting his teeth in anger, Willow says Teresa's lost it if she thinks he can't snatch that pathetic paper from her. Realizing her opponent is way too stubborn, the heroine declares she's not joining the student council for his sake. Besides, if she joins, it'll increase the number of students wanting to volunteer in the magical creature hunts. Suddenly, applause rings out from behind, and only now, turning around, does Teresa realize Headmaster Valhalla was watching them. Clyde's grandpa, Noel Willow, congratulates the girl and says that was impressive. He's got no doubt that Lady Squire's magic level is way higher than her student records show now. Looks like the headmaster's been watching them since the start of their chat. Guess those books Professor Ilya picked out really did help the heroine out. Teresa's intelligence jumped all the way up to a B in just 1 week. Noel Willow says that landing someone like Lady Squire on the student council would be a total game changer. So, as headmaster of Valhalla, he's officially giving it the green light. All right, the student council quest is complete, and the heroine scores 100,000 points as a reward. But knowing Clyde, he's having a hard time swallowing this, and he's trying to fight his grandpa's decision. Still, quest's done, and Teresa swears she'll do everything she can to keep the student council's reputation spotless. Noel Willow replies that he's looking forward to seeing what she can do. Finally, he tells the young folks to lay off the insults and be nicer to each other. Once the principal's gone, Clyde tells Teresa that her dumbness is so impressive, he's starting to doubt she's even human. He's wondering if she seriously thinks the principal's praising her and smiling because he's got a thing for her. Thing is, she already knows that Squire and Willow are enemies. Obviously, the principal let Teresa join the student council, thinking she'd be useful there. So, laughing, she replies that if she were any dumber, Clyde's spell might have actually worked. Those words piss him off so much that she starts to suspect she might have said too much. He's outraged that Teresa could actually think she's worth something just because she managed to break through his magic once. She says that's not it, and to avoid an argument, heads to class. As she's leaving the office, she says she hopes they can work together in the future. Teresa's headed to the lecture hall, but she's got this feeling Clyde's tailing her for some reason. She can feel everyone staring, 'cause usually she's the one chasing after Willow. She's so lost in her head, she's not watching where she's going, and bam! Runs right into Damian coming around the corner. He dives to catch her, and at the same time Clyde grabs her from behind. While the stars are aligning with two dudes suddenly all over her, she's apologizing to Damian. Since this is their third collision, Teresa promises to pay way more attention next time. But Damian's like, it's cool as long as she's okay, and she realizes guys with red hearts on the affection meter are a whole different breed. Just then, Clyde reminds her how much of a jerk he can be, grumbling, "You think you can stand on your own 2 feet now?" Realizing Willow's still holding her from behind, Teresa thanks him for catching her. But Clyde claims he wasn't catching her, just stopping her from falling under his feet and getting in his way. That's why he wants her to apologize, not thank him, and Teresa does it. Damian spots the application for student council in her hand, and she explains that membership will give her a huge leg up senior year. Clyde snatches the form from Teresa, saying even if she got in because the director pulled strings, she still needs to apply. Damian just stares him down, silent and intense. Then he compliments Teresa on getting in, psyched that they'll be seeing each other more. She smiles, but deep down, she's not so sure that hanging out while dodging death is a good idea. Teresa rushes to class, thinking she heard Damian say it would be fun. Transformation lectures starting, and the professor tells everyone to grab their practice materials. But Damian's last words are stuck in her head, and she's trying to figure out what he meant. Today, students will transform a flower into a butterfly, and whoever nails it on the first try gets bonus points. While our girl's checking out the plant she got, the dude in the back row blows his up by accident. But Teresa's thinking Damian didn't sound happy for his buddy, more like he was pissed off. Ilya walks over to the student in the back and explains you gotta clearly visualize the end result. Turning back to Teresa, the professor sees she's already holding a beautiful butterfly while lost in thought. Our girl doesn't know how this'll all turn out, but she's gotta avoid any hints of a bad ending. Ilya, who at first thought she was totally spacing out, praises her for nailing it on the first try. And even though she doesn't know how she did it, she insists she did everything the professor said. Mages materialize images, and if you don't train your imagination, even a ton of power is useless. So the professor advises Teresa to keep at it and keep trying her best. To the other students' surprise, our girl manages to kill it in all her other classes too. Teresa's laying on the charm, giving props to her teachers, and even the freaking stars are impressed by how good she is at buttering people up. But Teresa ain't buying it. If she was really good at flattering people, she wouldn't be stuck in Shinji-woo's messed up life. This first-floor library's pretty sweet, 'cause it's got a reading room and everything. She flops down in a chair, wondering why she feels like she can't catch her breath all day. She remembers Damian saying that hiding in closets is a bad idea, and Teresa figures this is the perfect place to ditch him, since he never comes to the library. But then she starts getting paranoid, like, what if some of the devs changed the game's code without her knowing? Besides, her messing with the game probably screwed up the original storyline. Now she's freaking out that she's in danger no matter where she goes. She's racking her brain, trying to remember how the characters acted with just one red heart on the affection meter, and how she can boost it. Teresa needs to do something, and fast, or no one's ever gonna love her. Thinking about it makes it hard to even breathe. She's completely drained. All she wants right now is to get the hell out of here. She feels like she's gonna pass out, but then Oswald shows up out of nowhere and catches her. He puts his hand on her forehead, tells her time's frozen, and tells her to slow her breathing. Once he sees she's calmed down a bit, he tells her it's not time to break down yet. Oswald strokes her cheek, and she feels safe with his warm, gentle touch. Relaxing, she finally blacks out, which the manager is definitely not happy about. Oswald calls for Jean, the healer, for his BJ, and a dude in a blue kimono and hat shows up. The guy gently lays Teresa down so the doc can take a look at her. The man confirms what he already suspected. The heroine has obsession syndrome. When Oswald asked how badly she was hurt, the healer said she was in decent shape, considering the glitches. He's surprised the admin stopped time, since the broadcast could have been even more insane. But according to Oswald, most BJs couldn't handle the possession syndrome and died, and Teresa's just keep setting new records. So Oswald can't let such a valuable asset become a failure. Her face has changed a lot compared to her original videos. While appearances can change with a different soul, changes this drastic are pretty rare. That's why the admin has super high expectations for this girl. Usually, the more their appearance changes, the more they entertain Oswald, and the healer finds those words disgusting. If a guy famous for pushing streamers to the absolute limit says that, then these broadcasts must be brutally savage. But the healer thinks he sees something shining behind this girl's closed eyes. Spotting the guy touching Teresa's cheek, Oswald yanks her away, pulling her in even tighter. With a smirk, he tells John that kind of move ain't exactly professional. The healer apologizes, says he didn't even realize he was reaching for her. He knows she's just a pawn in some cosmic game, but for a second, he felt like she had him under her spell. Oswald's regretting being so reckless, cause he knows Jean's got enough cash to buy godhood itself, and if you piss him off, he might off someone like the admin. The healer says the refraction's fixed, the soul's locked in now, and there won't be any more random injuries or glitches. Oswald gives Jean props, says he did a hell of a job. As he leaves, he says he sent the payment and asks him to check the transfer. Jean took this gig cause the payout was too good to pass up, but dealing with Oswald's attitude is getting harder and harder. Admin's worried about the flies buzzing around Lady Teresa. They've caught a whiff of something sweet. A normal dude wouldn't see it, but that girl's soul is overflowing with starlight. The purer the constellation's love, the brighter that light gets. She's so damn beautiful, it makes Oswald want to break her. No wonder Jean cracked with a toy like that in front of him. Oswald strokes the heroine's hair, and she starts to wake up. Checking his watch, admin realizes he's got to hit up the other channels. But he can spare one more minute, and hugging Teresa, Oswald tells her to meet up next time she's conscious. Duke Squire gets a letter saying Teresa picked Damian West to be her escort mage. Donovan thinks it's a killer choice, since the guy's Squire Scholarship's most outstanding mage. Rumor has it he's even gonna be the next head of the association. Raoul knows all this, but he figured Teresa would have a bad relationship with Damian because of his low birth. Donovan's got more news for the Duke, about the girl joining the student council. Raoul's pissed about it, cause he thinks his daughter only joined cause of Clyde. The student council's run by Willow, and they're all about wiping out monsters and demons. Still, the eldest Squire daughter joining the council, it might look like her family's under Willow's thumb now. Even so, Raoul doesn't think Teresa even considered that angle. Asked if that's all the news, Donovan says there's one more request from the girl's personal maid. They need to send a tailor to Teresa, cause she's been so focused on reading, she barely eats, and now her uniform needs taking in. Soon, Libby gets back from school, and the Duke heads out to meet his daughter. So I'm telling my dad how much I love my classes and that I've made a ton of friends. The Duke's all like, "How's Teresa doing?" Cause she clearly hasn't straightened up if the Clydes are still around. But I'm like, even though I haven't known her that long, I think she's a good person. That's the first time Raoul's ever heard me talk like that, especially sticking up for Teresa. For some reason, it makes him happy that I'm feeling this way, and he tells me. But then Giuseppe busts into the room yelling that Teresa is a terrible person. He says if I knew what she did to Mom, I'd never say anything like that. Giuseppe's convinced Teresa's just playing me, but I don't think so. The Duke can't take it anymore and orders us to shut up. Giuseppe shoots Dad a dirty look and storms out, and I chase after him, telling him to stop. Alone with Donovan, the Duke mentions how long it's been since he's heard kids squabbling. And even though the butler's sure Giuseppe and Livy get along, Raoul points out Teresa, who isn't even here, messed things up. Lighting a cigar, the Duke orders Donovan to prepare the donations because he's heading to Valhalla. Raoul thinks it's necessary since the Emperor pretends to care about the family feud while squeezing Squire dry. If they at least pretend the families are patching things up, maybe he'll be less brutal to their kids this season. In Valhalla, every club throws a welcome bash for the new students. Naturally, that includes the Clyde Club, and wouldn't you know it, that's when our girl bumps into him again. She decides to get away from Clyde ASAP to avoid another argument. Since she lives in the dorms, they keep running into each other, so Teresa's even thinking about moving out. And even though she could afford a house near school, in God's game, single women can't live alone. Lost in her own head, Teresa didn't notice Clyde had been tailing her the whole time, and now he's pulling ahead. Knowing he did it on purpose, she decides to make it a race. But the jerk's moving so fast she can't catch up. Teresa finally gets to the room where the Clyde's Brides Club girls are waiting for her. The girls are blown away by the new room they got thanks to her. Officially, the director gave them the room because they donate the most, but Teresa knows it's just favoritism towards his grandson's fan club. The girls clap for her and ask the club president to give a speech for the occasion. Truth is, Teresa just wants to bail out of here. She notices Rumio's missing again. She's been out a lot lately with health problems. Teresa decides to chill, and since she's here anyway, she might as well talk about club activities. She's welcoming the newbies, saying Clyde's brides need to set an example, unlike those Damian-obsessed freaks. First things first, avoid anything that could trash the Clyders' rep around school. From now on, club members act like proper ladies, and no more stalking Clyde for no reason. This new rule kinda throws the girls for a loop, since they're used to following their crush everywhere. But they quickly realize that all that chasing makes Clyde uncomfortable. Plus, Lady Teresa, the club president, made the rule, so the girls are all in on it. Our girl figures not everyone in the club liked chasing Clyde anyway, and now they can finally speak up. With that, Teresa wraps up her speech and tells everyone to enjoy the evening and the snacks. Turns out a bunch of the girls brought booze and now they're offering our girl a drink. They want Teresa, the Empire's top wine snob, to taste test first, and they're cracking up when she says she doesn't drink. She takes a sip, surprised that alcohol can actually taste this good. Hours later, she's sprawled on the couch, kicking herself for drinking when she can't handle it. The other girls have already started heading out, and knowing nobody's coming for her, Teresa Teresa gets ready to go back to the dorm. But when she gets to the door, she runs into Duke Squire, who looks seriously pissed about what he just saw. He gives his daughter a hard stare, tells her to follow him, and heads out into the courtyard. Teresa's confused about what Raoul's doing here, since he's not supposed to come to Valhalla to see the family's enemies. Even though this character has his settings, maybe something glitched out. Still, the girl likes the feeling of having someone see her home. Giving his daughter a stern look, the Duke asks what exactly she found so amusing. Right now, the heroine's in Teresa's body, the one Raoul raised, even though their relationship went south. She grabs the Duke's hand, confessing she always wished she could go home just once, holding her dad's hand. But Raoul just pulls his hand away. No words. Ouch. She's hurting, wishing he'd just hug her one time. The Duke's like, at this rate, it'll take you freaking forever to get back to the dorm. And then, out of nowhere, he drops to one knee and tells Teresa to hop on his back. Snuggled up against the Duke's back, she asks him how he knew about her biggest wish. First, she's worried Raoul might be struggling, but then she says Teresa's dad's super strong and she takes after him. Duke calls BS on that, saying he wasn't anything like her when he was younger. Still, she notices Raoul's voice got a whole lot softer all of a sudden. She blurts out she was always jealous of the other kids because their parents would pick them up, but that never happened for her. But he came for her today, and now Teresa feels a little less pathetic. As father and daughter head to the dorm, constellations are joining the stream one after another, and the heroine ends up getting 1,000,000 points in record time. The next morning, Teresa wakes up in her bed with a splitting headache, realizing she's paying the price for last night. The girl sees the system notifications and notices that her channel level has increased, and now she's getting 10,000 points at a time. If this keeps up, she might actually manage to earn 1,000,000,000 points. The BJ Villainous channel climbs to 99th place in the rankings, and the heroine wonders how good that position is. The constellations reply that it's really good, because it's the first time a channel that just achieved gold status has immediately made it into the top 100. Eloise walks in with a tray of hot soup and a cup of tea. Since Teresa doesn't remember how she got here yesterday, she explains that the Lord carried her. Eloise isn't exactly sure from where, but the Duke carried his daughter on his back, and apparently he came to the school to make a donation. She hands the heroine a note her dad left for her before he took off. The note says Raoul's appointing Damian West as Teresa's mage escort, and apparently the guy's got some serious magic talent. But because he's from a low-class background, there won't be an official ceremony to avoid gossip. Soon, the Squires are going to build a new library, a training ground, and a garden in Valhalla. Plus, some popular restaurants and cafes are opening next month. All the profits from them go straight to the Squire and Willow Foundation scholarship kids. And get this, the Duke's putting Teresa in charge of the fund allocation committee. She can't believe Raoul made this decision after seeing her drunk yesterday, especially since he hates that kind of behavior. Then the letter goes on to say that the Duke noticed how much weight Teresa's lost. He tells her not to skip meals, to take good care of herself, and to drink responsibly. The letter's signed, Your Father, Raoul. She gets the feeling the Duke actually cares, and suddenly his lectures aren't so bad. Reading those words over and over, her heart just swells up with warmth. Later, stepping out of the dorm, Teresa runs into the fan club girls. They saw the Duke carrying her out of Valhalla on his back, and they think it's adorable. She can't believe he'd do that knowing everyone would see, since the main building is right near the front entrance. The realization hits her, and she blushes bright red. Teresa wants to shut this down, so she books it, saying she's got urgent business. But just when she finally shakes the girls, Mimosa, looking pissed, catches up to her. Mimosa's furious Teresa dared to join the student council behind her back. She's demanding Squire get out of there ASAP. It's bad enough Damian's her escort mage. Mimosa's got a serious monster and demon phobia, which is why she's not in student council, so Teresa's been keeping her involvement on the down low. Not wanting to keep talking about it, our girl turns to split, but the other chick keeps on her, telling her to drop the whole thing. She tries to catch up with Teresa, but they unexpectedly run into Professor Ilya. The Rodrigo family's got a serious knack for sniffing out evil. That's why Mimosa, with royal blood running through her veins, is instinctively creeped out by the professor. Teresa tells Ilya with a smile that she's already plowed through all the books he lent her last time, and even though she doesn't really like using the professor, she's actually got a solid reason this time. Teresa asks him for more books, and when Ilya heads toward his office, she follows right behind him. My head's killing me. Could you maybe slow down a bit, Professor? Look, Ilya's trying to tell you that physical fitness is huge for a mage. All theory and no action? You're demon chow, plain and simple. Entering his office, the guy holds out his hand to Teresa. Thinking he's about to escort her somewhere, she puts her hand in his. Ilya's totally confused. What's that about? He just wanted the book she finished reading. Teresa is so mortified she's shaking like a leaf and drops the textbook. She apologizes, but the professor just ignores it, picks up the book, and asks if she has any questions. Actually, yeah, she does have questions, but she's not sure if she should be asking a great demon about this kind of stuff. Screw it. Teresa decides to ask him about magical creatures that have been corrupted by magic. She wants to know more about the kind of magic that can restore them to their original state. Ilya thinks Professor Felix's book might be the key to helping this girl. She's skipping Lockhart's classes, the guy she mentioned in that interview with Oswald, 'cause every animal on Earth hates her guts. Just then, bam! The office door swings open and there's Professor Felix himself. He sees Ilya's not alone, gives the girl a nod, and she nods back. Holy crap, is this crazy scientist really her type? The stars are shocked. Teresa admits she might have jumped the gun a little, 'cause judging by looks alone, he's probably not her ideal. Locking eyes on her dark hair and silver eyes, Lockhart guesses she's a squire. She confirms it, trying to figure out why he's poking her cheek. Ilya tells Felix to knock it off, saying Teresa's his student. Felix replies he didn't mean anything by it. He just thought she might be a doppelganger. The heroine realizes Teresa's face always looked like she was infected with magic, but now she looks like a beaten-down puppy. She admits that her condition might have misled the professor, since she had a few too many at the welcome party last night. Felix is amused by her story and jokes that all the magic's been squeezed out of her, but Ilya tells him to cut the crap. Then Lockhart advises Teresa to drink his special honey tea for her hangover. He's shocked the girl knows about the honey-based cosmetics he produces, because Felix hasn't told anyone about it. He asks her to keep it a secret, since supply chain issues forced him to release a limited edition collection, and now he's getting threats. Ilya silently watches his colleague's appalling behavior as he offers Teresa a contract to sign about all this. The heroine suggests paying her for her silence with a cup of honey tea and asks Professor Bernstein to witness this agreement. Felix agrees and suggests heading to his lab immediately, where he'll make Teresa 100 cups of tea. On the way, the girl asks him to lend her a book about reverting magical creatures to their original state. Lockhart's surprised Miss Squires suddenly so interested in his subject and invites her to sign up for his course. When the three of them finally get into the lab, Teresa jumps, totally freaked out. The room's like a botanical garden, filled with magic animals glowing with golden auras. The girl starts getting anxious, 'cause Teresa doesn't exactly vibe with creatures like these. Before she can even think about it, a massive black panther lunges right at her. Thinking she's a goner, the girl squeezes her eyes shut tight. But realizing she's still alive, Teresa hesitantly opens her eyes and sees she's surrounded by the creatures, all licking her like she's their best friend. The girl's trying to figure out what the heck is going on here. A worried Felix rushes over to her, apologizing, 'cause he totally forgot he let them out. But he thinks the magic animals' behavior is weird, 'cause they usually don't go jumping on people like that. Seeing how gently the animals accepted Miss Squire, he figures she's got a real knack with magical creatures. The heroine's having a hard time believing it, 'cause as far as she knows, Teresa never had this kind of ability. Still, Felix insists that not many people can actually connect with magic creatures and be compatible with them. So, he's suggesting that she switch her major like, right now. Our girl just can't wrap her head around it, 'cause usually when Teresa gets near magical beasts, they bare their teeth at her. She tries giving the animals commands, and to her surprise, they obey her without question. But just as Lockhart's pushing Teresa to ditch elemental magic again, Professor Bernstein's hand suddenly lands on her shoulder. He shields her from the magical animals, and they instinctively start backing away. Ilya firmly tells Felix that Teresa is his student. Lockhart sticks to his guns, saying his course is only for masochists like Clyde, and Miss Squire just picked the wrong major. Bernstein says the girl's actually showing promise with elemental magic, so Felix is suggesting Teresa double majors, but she knows she'll lose Ilya's interest if she picks another course, so she turns him down. Looking at the animals, she's trying to figure out why they're so tense. It's obvious, the beasts think she's in danger and want to protect her. Felix says the animals have never been this active, since they only recently got back to normal and were feeling weak, but Teresa's presence has revived them. One of the constellations explains to her that this kind of thing used to happen with streamers who got way too into the content they created. The creatures sense the creator's genuine love and return it with affection and friendship. That's why the heroine felt a special emotional connection with them. When infected, magical creatures plunge into darkness, their eyes turn red, and that's how they become monsters. The heroine silently apologizes to the animals for making this world so cruel. It just hit her why Raoul left her that note with all the moralizing. He was feeling the same thing, worrying about his daughter, Therese. Her thoughts get cut off by Professor Ilya's voice, calling her to his lecture. Lockhart hands Therese the book she asked for, says she can return it whenever, but sooner is better. Our girl knows exactly what he means. The professor wants her to come back. On the way out of the office, Bernstein asks if Therese is thinking of switching her major, but she quickly sets him straight. According to Ilya, magical beasts are super perceptive, and humans can't tune into their magical frequency. They're crazy strong, and controlling them is a nightmare, which is why so few people study them. So, if Therese decides to specialize in magical creatures, she'll get rich and famous real quick. Ilya's convinced she's got an insane natural talent for it. He says switching her major will help Teresa unlock her true potential. She knows he's right, but becoming some mega-powerful mage isn't her dream. Smiling, she replies that she'd much rather earn Professor Ilya's approval. Teresa says she's only just begun to grasp elemental magic, and she's into it, and if she's successful, the possibilities are endless. The heroine notices that it's gotten easier to keep up with the professor. She's surprised to catch herself thinking that maybe he's adjusted his pace to match hers. Teresa decides to check Ilya's affection level and discovers the meters jumped to 2 whole red hearts. The girl thinks that all of this is happening way too fast. Even playing as Libby on hard mode, it takes at least 20 encounters to fill even 2 red hearts. The heroine wonders if she's done something that important to Ilya. You think magic beasts might be connected to this somehow? These things used to live up in the celestial realm, but a century ago, a demon cracked it open and they plummeted down here. Since angel magic is like a gourmet meal to them, Ilya, back when he still had his archangel wings, could control them all no problem. Teresa's staring so hard at the professor, he calls her out on it. He says a long stare is either flirting or an insult, and neither one is appropriate for a student talking to her professor. Trying to wiggle out of the awkwardness, she tells him he looks different today. Girls switching into full-on suck-up mode, since her flatteries worked pretty well so far. Suddenly, Ilya smiles and says, "So that was flirting after all." Remarking that Teresa's pretty bold, he opens the classroom door. Soon, rumors were flying around school that Duke Squire had donated a ton of cash, and some people took it as a sign the family feud with the Willows was cooling off. Word also got out that Damian had been assigned as Teresa's escort mage, but the biggest news by far was that Miss Squire joined the student council, and even though she became crazy popular, she wasn't exactly thrilled about it. Hoping to catch a break from all the attention, she sits down under a tree to eat lunch by herself. She'd finally gotten her appetite back for the first time in forever. Plus, those constant headaches were gone, and it wasn't that long ago she'd passed out in the library. She suddenly wonders who carried her to the couch back then, because she doesn't remember anything after she blacked out. The constellations told Teresa she had obsession syndrome. She's relieved and happy that she's finally okay now. Suddenly, Lainey Rose walks up to our girl, holding some kind of box. She's totally tripped out that Miss Squire even knows her name. Truth is, Lainey's a support character the team cooked up to help Liv, who, if she levels up right, can craft insane alchemical items. Usually she's holed up in the old outbuilding, so she's headed that way and asks our girl if she can pass. Lainey's terrified of Teresa, 'cause she always threw a hissy fit if any commoner dared cross her. In the game, she was a broke